I've noticed that whenever there's a book that gets on camera, that there's a purpose.
Top shelf, behind ton of the screw.
I think that this show has a very special relationship with literature.
And I love the way they've put in these obscure references.
I tend to want to go and read the books.
Alice in Wonderland,
Watership Down,
A Brief History in Time,
Wrinkle in Time,
The Third Policeman,
Stephen King.
Stephen King.
We're all very big Stephen King fans.
It's a well-read, intelligent, mischievous bunch of people who came up with this show.
I just like the idea of following a sort of trail of crumbs and making connections that way.
Something I want you to see.
that little place you always wanted, George?
Sorry?
What, don't you read? It's from Of Mice and Men. You'd like it. Puppies get killed.
We sort of view each season of the show like a book, like the books in the Harry Potter series. There's an ongoing story, but each book has its own specific story.
It's a show that really rewards continued viewing. It's really a show that, like a really good novel, builds up and up and up and up, and the rewards are exponential.
That might like something to read. Dostoevsky. You don't have any Stephen King?
Stephen King's book, The Stand, is a huge influence on Lost. It's also a long and sprawling tale. Basically, everybody in the world pretty much has died from this mysterious virus except for a few people, and those few people are sort of merging and gathering and getting to know each other. That really was a great model for Lost. We have castaways stranded on a mysterious deserted island, but really the stories are about the characters and about who they are as people. Season 3 starts with the book club, and the book club is reading Carrie by Stephen King.
It's not even literature. It's popcorn.
And why isn't it literature, Adam? I'm dying to know.
There's no metaphor. It's by the numbers, religious hokum pokum.
No metaphor?
It's science fiction.
Carrie is actually, at least in our opinion, like a really great piece of writing. It starts with a woman who's incredibly alienated in high school, which is something that we can all identify with.
This is my favorite book, so I am absolutely thrilled that you can't stand it.
There are definitely some parallels between Carrie and Juliet.
The idea that Juliet can be both vulnerable and identifiable, but at the same time have the ability in her heart to commit an act of great atrocity is really interesting to us. The Third Policeman is a book that I hadn't even read prior to the beginning of season 2, and it was a book that Craig Wright, who wrote Orientation, was a big fan of. Sort of the themes in the book in terms of redemption, and of course the ultimate big twist at the end of The Third Policeman is that the main character has been dead all along, sort of tapped into kind of the zeitgeisty purgatory feel of the show.
A guy goes nuts if he ain't got nobody. It don't make no difference who the guy is, as long as he's with you. I tell you, a guy gets too lonely and he gets sick.
What the hell are you talking about?
It's from Of Mice and Men. Don't you read?
I think there is a great sort of model in genre storytelling that kind of goes all the way back again to Dickens with The Christmas Carol. That idea of being able to see your life, knowing everything you know. We figured that we had a real great opportunity to do that just this once with Desmond and explaining how did he acquire this power to see the future. There's a very Dickensian quality to Lost in general in terms of the way that we use coincidence as a storytelling technique, but also the way that Dickens wrote his stories, which was in a heavily serialized fashion. Great Expectations sort of doled out and was published in newspapers and in little mini books. You'd read it a chapter at a time, and he would get audience and fan feedback. It was a very primitive sort of internet.
I've read everything Mr. Charles Dickens has ever written. Every wonderful word. Every book. Except this one. I'm saving it. So it'll be the last thing I ever read before I die.
Nice idea, as long as you know when you're gonna die.
There is a fairly well-known story in literary circles that, John Irving has a copy of Our Mutual Friend, and that he says it's going to be the last book that he ever reads. We sort of expropriated that idea and gave it to Desmond.
As cheesy as it sounds, like when I was growing up, I'd watch Saturday morning cartoons, and between the cartoons, like TV actors would be like, reading is fundamental.
These racks and shelves contain a lot of books.
And they would hold up books and they'd be like, go out and buy this book.
How do you feel about them? Are they your friends?
Lost is sort of trying to do that again. You know, hey, check out this book that Sawyer's reading.
Hell of a book. It's about bunnies.
I love that Sawyer is a bookworm, and I love that he reads anything and everything.
Things you would not typically think Sawyer would read.
He's looking at a library from 1970-something in a hatch, and then whatever is on the plane. That's the thing I love the most about it, is that it's not like he can go out and buy a book. He can read what's there, and once he's done, that's it.
Reading to the baby, if you remember, he was reading his car magazines to the baby.
Christine, in one of our episodes, really wanted to have Sawyer reading Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, and I thought that was hilarious.
How's your book?
Predictable. Not nearly enough sex.
I always imagined that he read all the books that he really wanted to read first, that were cool to him, but now he's getting to the Ayn Rand. Fountainhead's a very intimidating book, but I think that when he started reading it, I think he probably really loved it because there's this character in it called Rourke, a sort of a renegade, who is very much like Sawyer. There's sort of like these mythological stories that are ongoing, you know, referenced in a way over the course of the show. The Wizard of Oz is obviously a big one, and last year the Henry Gale reference kind of kicked it off. But then, of course, the imagery of the Wicked Witch of the East, who gets totaled by Dorothy's house in Kansas. This year we continued there, and then obviously with an episode called The Man Behind the Curtain.
I think there is no Jacob. You are the man behind the curtain. The Wizard of Oz. And you're a liar.
We've always envisioned Benjamin Linus as that kind of a guy, but maybe now we're beginning to believe that there is, in fact, an almighty and powerful Oz, and if he is almighty and powerful, that might be a very scary thing indeed.
Sometimes people think that if you're doing genre television, that it can't also be substantive. And I think in Lost, we're trying to, really address kind of serious thematic concerns. I mean, this is a show where the title Lost is really more about how these characters are metaphorically lost in their lives than literally being lost on this mysterious island.
I never realized that.
Really? That's pretty cool, isn't it?
Deep. People saw the pilot, it was kind of like, oh, is it going to be like Lord of the Flies? In the reality of our world, Lord of the Flies has actually been strangely inapplicable. Lord of the Flies is about a group of kids and how their society basically breaks into two. One is savage and one is civilized. There was an unseen monster, and they started killing each other. But
well, actually, it does seem like
I stand corrected. Honestly, the savages are our people, the castaways.
You keep defending the others, and I don't know why you do that.
They tuck their shirts in, and they have refrigerators. Savages don't tuck their shirts in. Look at you. You're a savage.
That's true.
So I guess I'm out of the book club.